I'm Rolene Marks. Welcome to Modiin and Beyond. Join me every Sunday between 3 and 4 on Radio Modiin as we take a look at what's happening in Modiin, Israel, and beyond. You guys know I do that to trick you, right? I say it's Sunday, but it's really Tuesday. I'm Rolene Marks. This is Modiin and Beyond on Radio Modiin, where we take a look at what's happening in our city, in our country, and beyond our borders. And just a reminder, if you want to advertise on Modiin and Beyond or on any of our shows, please be in contact with us via our website at www.radiomodiin.co.il. We are growing. Let us help you grow your business or your services. So on the show today, we're going to be speaking to my good friend, Eric Rubin. He is the Executive Director of Project Max, which was co-founded by the Maccabi World Union. We're going to be hearing all about what Maccabi has been up to since the start of the war, some exciting events they have coming up this week. And then I'm going to be crossing to South Africa and speaking to PR expert Tim Fleck. We're going to be unpacking how the world, how people outside of Israel are viewing the conflict and what we could be doing better and what the world should be learning from us. But with me on the line is the man himself, Eric Rubin. Eric, you know I've got to get you in studio. Hugs have to be exchanged.
You know what? I miss you. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And yes, in person is definitely better. But thank you for taking the time to tell all the stories that you've been telling, you know, throughout the war and before that. And in particular, I want to thank you for making sure you're highlighting and keeping the focus on the terrible sexual violence and abuse that so many Israeli women suffered and make sure the world is actually standing up. So, you know what, I believe Israeli women, and thank you for making sure the world does as well.
Well, the world might be silent, but we certainly won't be. We will speak and speak and speak until there is no more silence. But Eric, your organization, I mean, you yourself, you are extraordinary. You made Aliyah in the middle of a war. You're certainly one of the most extraordinary people I know, always helping where you can. And now you are the executive director of Project Max, co-founded by the World Maccabi Union. How has Maccabi been assisting those affected by the war since the start of it on the 7th of October?
You know, thank you, Rolene. You know, there's so many amazing organizations throughout Israel, throughout the world that have banded together to try to help and make a difference however they can. But I think in particular, you know, from day one, the Maccabi World Union, you know, has been there. And I think if we go back to October 7th and October 8th, you know, people just started fleeing the South as the attacks happened. They were running away. There was no organization. We didn't, you know yet what was going on. And in Kfar Maccabi, we have 2 hotels. And from the very minute it was apparent what was going on, the Maccabi World Union opened their hotels to residents of the South. We have had up to about 1,000 different people that have been staying at the hotel. They have turned Kfar Maccabi basically into a small town for the people that had to flee the South. Most of our residents are from Sderot and Yechini. And, you know, I don't want to leave the impression that, they just came to the Maccabi World Union and Kfar Maccabi and they stayed at a hotel. The Maccabi World Union and Kfar Maccabi had to change their village basically into a small town for all these residents. Yes, there were 2 hotels and there are offices and there's the Jewish Sports Museum, but one of the first things that the Maccabi World Union did was bring in doctors. We needed to have a whole medical team on staff to attend to the needs of these people, counselors, psychologists. They opened schools in the village. Of course, you know, as a sports organization, we made sure the kids had an outlet. So there were many sporting activities. We've had radio shows where we've had some of, you know, Israel's most famous football players come. And we've just been trying to do whatever we can. We have, barbers and hairdressers on site. And when you think about what's involved in everyday life, and then having to basically, bring in all of this infrastructure, or most of it, from scratch, was a Herculean effort. And, we're, I think, at about 170% capacity, having to bring in additional beds at rooms. They've set up structures on the property for daycares. They've turned the convention center into kids clubs and classrooms. There's a store on property with free clothing and free food and free coloring books and things like that, because everyone needs to remember, this was not let's pack up and we're going to go on a 3-week trip. It was run for your lives, and people just didn't even grab anything. They just literally ran for their lives. And so we've had to, from scratch, do this. And I think it's one of those efforts that, when we can finally look back on what happened, we'll appreciate the magnitude of what Maccabi did and continues to do. And by the way, we'll continue to do until it's safe for all the residents to return to their proper homes.
Now, Maccabi is a sports organization, and sports has played a vital role throughout this war. You're also involved in Sports Speaks Up. Can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Yes. I mean, this is, I got a phone call from, Roy Hessing, who's the president CEO of the Maccabi. And they had this wonderful idea to use professional athletes to speak up and speak out on behalf of hostages. I say, in a way, we adopted hostages. And, this was a multi-pronged effort. So first of all, many Israeli athletes spoke out and adopted a hostage. 2 of them that have been, particularly quite vocal: Omri Caspi, an NBA legend, and Arik Zaevi, an Olympic legend. Many other Israeli athletes. Then we've had athletes that have participated in won different Maccabi games, and great Jewish, sports athletes that have adopted players. But Project Max, we played, I think, a very important role in this as well. I went to all of our athletes, and I think almost every one of them agreed to join. And what the concept was, and it's developed, is at first, we just matched a former athlete, either NBA, NFL, or including Major League Baseball, we also had, with a hostage. And so we would show the hostage's name, their picture, and then we would have the picture and name of one of the former professional players with the message "Sport Speaks Up," because this was all a humanitarian effort. These are innocent men, women, and children who are being held hostage, who don't have a voice, who are being held in tunnels. And we needed people with high public profiles to speak out on their behalf. And so very early on, we started this. We then, I'll say, adjusted the campaign, where we started going to videos and having a player tell something personal about the hostage. I'm an 8-year-old girl, and I like to do this, and this is where I grew up, and this is who I am. And then finally, sport speaks up, and athletes of the world must speak, and bring them home. I would, in particular, though, Rolene, like to take just maybe 20, 30 seconds. We had a very impressive list of former professional athletes who did the right thing when they were asked, who saw that this was basically good versus evil, and these people, the hostages, did not deserve what happened. So I just would like to read off quickly, if you don't mind, a list of some of these American former professional athletes. And again, we had National Football League, National Basketball Association, and Major League Baseball. So Nick Lowry, Cedric Toney, Eddie Johnson, Mark West, Michael Sweetney, Kareem Rush, Jerome Williams, Ricky Davis, Ryan Terrell, Michael Bankston, Tamir Goodman, a Israeli-American or an American-Israeli. We had a couple of coaches, Coach Bruce Pearl, his son, Coach Stephen Pearl, Theo Ratliff, Jared Armstrong, who is also an Israeli-American basketball player, LaTroy Hawkins, and last but not least, Jay Feely. Several of these guys have been to Israel, and I would say probably 8 or 10 of them were in Israel this year and got to meet the people and see the people. They got to, experience real life with Israelis. And I think that was another big part of what, tugged at their hearts and wanting to speak out on their behalf. And so the campaign continues, and we're not going to stop until all the hostages are home. Some of the players, just like Israel, they've had a little bit of relief and happiness because they've adopted hostages that have come home. And, they've asked about them every day. I get WhatsApp messages and text messages, any news. And so when I can finally share some good news that some of them have returned home, almost unanimously, they've all said to me, Eric, we'd like to adopt another hostage. We want to be there till they're all home. And so sport does play an important role in humanity. It keeps the attention where it needs to be. And I am personally very grateful. And I know that all of Israel is grateful. And the hostage families, most importantly, are grateful.
I mean, it doesn't take much to make me cry these days, but you're really bringing tears to my eyes. Sports has a massive, massive reach throughout the world. And to hear this effort is just absolutely extraordinary. I hope that in time they get to meet those hostages that they adopted so that they can put a human to the efforts that they did. Thank you so much to all of these sportsmen who went out to speak for our hostages. We won't stop speaking until they are home. And we know that the returning hostages have, I don't think we can comprehend the level of trauma that they have endured and that we have endured as a nation. And Project Max, World Maccabi are also helping out with helping people affected by the war through displacement or through being there in one of the communities on the day, help them to deal with the tsunami of PTSD, of trauma that they are dealing with. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing there as well.
Yeah, this is another very important initiative that recently kicked off. And as you mentioned, it's for, there's so many Israelis that are suffering from PTSD after October 7th, but in particular, the people from the Nova Music Festival. So we've created something called Balance, a Place to Breathe. And again, we've taken part of Kfar Maccabiya, and we've created a retreat. And I want to make sure that, just like I've talked about how many amazing organizations within Israel have been doing important work, and how there are so many organizations in the U.S., in particular with this initiative, I'd like to thank the Chicago Jewish Federation, who are now here in Israel. They were a major sponsor and supporter of this. And so what we've done is we have set up on the property, we'll call them glamping tents. And by the way, they were generously donated by an organization called Glow. See, so many people are trying to help. We are bringing in psychologists and counselors that can provide support, emotional support, to all the victims that are suffering from PTSD. And we've partnered with 2 Israeli nonprofits. One of them is called, in English, Safe Heart, and the other's Brothers to Yoga. So Safe Heart is helping us with the psychologists and the counselors and dealing with, a lot of the emotional support issues directly. And Brothers to Yoga is a great organization where, we're kind of doing yoga and meditating and getting the mind and the body together. And so this is, I think, just another great example where, the Maccabi World Union, the Chicago Jewish Federation, Israeli nonprofits, Safe Heart, Brothers to Yoga, a great company, Glow, have all come together to do the right thing and provide relief. And I think that if you go back to how we first started this about turning the village into a small town, it does take a village. And there's so many needs that have come up because of the war that Hamas inflicted upon us. And we have to make sure that dealing with the psychological effects and PTSD and that kind of trauma is something. And, our soldiers are doing an amazing job protecting us. The Iron Dome, But we also have to remember that so many people are hurting. And while we're hurting just from some of the images we've seen and living under the threats of rockets, can you even begin to imagine what trauma emotionally the people from the South are going through? And so this is hopefully a respite and a way to begin the emotional healing, in a place to breathe. And I have a feeling that once the physical scars heal for so many, we will be dealing for years upon years with the emotional trauma, and we need to be there for everyone. And this is just a start, but it's a way that we can provide relief in a 3-day retreat to at least begin the process of emotional healing.
I think it was one of the doctors that is treating the released hostages who said, their trauma is beyond what we can wrap our minds around. But we as a nation, as a country, are dealing with a collective trauma, and we are actually going to face an unprecedented mental health emergency that is coming down the pike in the weeks and months and years to come. Now, tomorrow you have a very important event with somebody who also has just led this country in the most exceptional way. President Herzog, he has been our comforter in chief, and he will be joining you tomorrow.
Yes, so thanks. There's so much going on, but one of the other things that we need to do is to remember the victims. We say that never again is now, and so tomorrow at Kfar Maccabi, we will be unveiling a memorial to the victims under the leadership of our chairman Amir Peled, our president Michael Siegel, our CEO Amir Gissin. I got to see it last night. The memorial's been set up, and tomorrow, as you mentioned, President Herzog will be joining us on site to remember the victims. We're about 6 weeks, since then, and it's time to remember. And it's a beautiful monument. I hope it's closed to the public tomorrow, but I hope that at some point everybody will make it to Kfar Maccabi, see the memorial, pay your respects, remember, and we all must remember, that never again is now. So, that's an important event. And like you mentioned, President Herzog has been fabulous. There's so much going on, but I think his attendance tomorrow just shows, the importance of making sure we remember, those that we've lost.
May their memories be eternally blessed. We will never, ever forget the events of the 7th of October. We hold the victims, their families in our hearts every single day, and we will certainly continue to fight for them, to speak for them, and make sure that their memory is perpetuated. Eric Rubin, my good friend, the executive director of Project Max, co-founded by the Maccabi World Union, thank you so much for joining us on Modiin and Beyond this morning.
Thank you again so much for having me. There's lots we've done, and there's lots to still be done. And the Maccabi World Union will be there. And I'd like to just ask your listeners to please go to maccabi.org. We have updates about all the work we're doing. Appreciate your support. Thank you so much for having me, Rolene, and I look forward to the hug that I need.
One of the greatest things is that we've got this man now a citizen of our country. Thank you to Eric Rubin. On the other side of this, we're going to be unpacking PR, how we are fighting this war in public opinion with Tim Fleck of Fleck Partners.
Love's what you make it. Can't escape it. Baby, yesterday's favorite. Don't you hate it? Love's what you make it. Baby, love's what you make it. Don't back it up. Baby, don't try to shade it. Beauty's naked. That's what you make. What you make it. Baby, love's what you make it. Celebrate it. Anticipate it. Yesterday's faded. Nothing can change it. Love's what you make it. Love's what you make it. Love's what you make
Talk, and life's what you make it. I'm Rolene Marks. This is Modiin and Beyond on Radio Modiin, where we take a look at what's happening in Modiin, Israel, and beyond. And a reminder, you guys have any upcoming events, anything that you would like to promote on Modiin and Beyond, you are more than welcome to be in touch with me at my Facebook page. I'm Rolene Marks, or even drop me a line on WhatsApp at 0525829090. Community is what we're all about. And of course, if you want to advertise your business, anything you have coming up, we are more than happy to chat to you. Our rates are very, very competitive, and our listenership is growing. This show is listened to by people throughout the world, so it's a great place for you to tell everybody what you're all about. And check out our website. We're at www.radiomodiin.co.il. This is the only English-speaking show, but we have one in Spanish. Most of our shows are in Hebrew, and we offer you a whole plethora of advice, from politics to legal advice to anything that you want to know, because, hey, we are one nation, and this, hey, is your community station. I'm going to be chatting in a short while to Tim Fleck. He'll be joining me on the line from Johannesburg. We are going to be speaking about public relations, how Israel's image is doing in the media. Do we have more friends than we anticipate? I know many of you are looking at social media and thinking that we are facing, just like I mentioned to Eric earlier on, a tsunami of mental health issues. We also seem to be fighting a tsunami of hate, but are we? With me on the line is PR expert and the founder of boutique PR firm Fleck Partners, specializing in security, legal, and safety, is Tim Fleck. Tim, good morning. Welcome to Modiin, all the way from South Africa.
Hi, Rolene. How are you?
I'm good, and you? You and I chat a lot offline about perceptions around Israel, how Israel is prosecuting this very, very justified war with Hamas. Again, this is a war we did not ask for, did not want, but because of the atrocities of the 7th of October, we are now prosecuting in the Gaza Strip. Tim, you are a PR expert. You are sitting outside of Israel. In your professional opinion, are we doing this correctly when it comes to the battle for PR?
So from what I've seen, it looks like Hamas and the sort of Palestinian causes had many years of experience in trying to garner international support for their cause. And what we've seen is what I've certainly picked up is there appears to be a lot of bots and sort of fake media profiles. This was picked up also by an Israeli company as well that noticed that there was an exponentially growing sort of network of these sort of fake profiles and fake accounts that are pushing the agenda and pushing the narrative for the Palestinian cause or for Hamas's cause. And this is obviously muddying the waters quite a bit. So it looks like there's more support for them than there actually is. I don't know if you've noticed on X.com, you will make a comment about something that's happening in Israel, and very randomly you'll have a whole lot of different accounts spamming you with links or videos that aren't related to the current topic, and this is muddying the waters. We're seeing a lot of fake imagery. We're seeing a lot of sort of fake doctored videos. Where deceptive imagery is used or deceptive video clips are used that are either very short. You'll notice they're very short clips that don't give a lot of context but show just a specific moment in that time. And this is causing a problem. This is obviously causing a problem from supporters of Israel's side. Then we need to work together and counter this kind of thing.
You know, one of the things I like to do, I don't know why, maybe I'm a masochist, but I like to read the comments on articles or on YouTube clips. And I do find that we have a lot more support than we realize. I think we have people in what I like to call the silent majority who are not being vocal. Maybe it's because of intimidation, but I've come up against people saying, you know, but what about the babies? It's very difficult when we know that we are justified in going into Gaza, in eliminating Hamas, but then having to deal with people saying to us, but what about the babies?
Yeah, that's a good thing, and that silent majority, I feel that they might also be being discouraged from it because from commenting or speaking out more because of the sort of trolling that we're seeing. The moment you say anything in support of Israel, you get hammered from all sides, and a lot of people don't want to be exposed to that kind of anti-Semitism or hatred like that.
You know, one of the questions I'm frequently asked as a speaker is, why is Israel's PR so bad? And I have to say, from my perspective, I've looked at how the IDF are making available spokespeople 24/7 in a multitude of languages. They're giving us the real-time updates. Certainly as a journalist, I'm getting updates from them all the time with video footage, with whatever they have ensured can be declassified for the public domain. I'm seeing our diplomatic corps going on the offensive. I don't believe that we've ever had as bad a PR perception as people think we do. I think, and maybe you can comment from a professional perspective, I think we have a media consumption, the ability to consume media professionally. I think we have a problem more on that side.
Absolutely. And we live in an age now where we want things now. People want to hear things now. They want to see the pictures now. They want to see the bombs exploding now. And what's happened is Hamas, which values death and sees death as a sort of an end goal in all of this, will gladly put out pictures of death, be it fake dolls or doctored videos that aren't real. We call it Pallywood. They will put this information out as quickly as possible to create that outrage and feed that the environment that's now been created where people want to consume things absolutely now. And what people don't understand is that in military operations, the IDF, for example, cannot just post images out of their soldiers in combat right now, because those photos can be geolocated to where their troops are. It endangers their lives. They can't just. The Israeli government isn't in the habit of posting dead bodies of terrorists that have been killed either. It's distasteful to do so, and certainly people think that that's bad PR. I've seen anything but bad PR from the Israeli government side and from the IDF side. You've got spokespersons like Colonel Jonathan Conricus, who's been absolutely astounding when it comes to putting out information and stuff like that, and you can see that he pays attention to what's going on social media. So as much as possible, he tries to accommodate people, and as much as possible, all the spokespersons and that I've seen at least have tried to accommodate the general sort of feeling of we want to see what's happening now. An example of this is in the beginning of the war when it started. We were seeing pictures and videos of tunnels and tunnel systems and stuff like that, but there was sort of cuts in between. So you'd see the entrance to the tunnel, the scene would cut, and then you'd be inside the tunnel. And although as silly as it is, people are saying, "Oh no, but this is fake. It's not real. We can't see that this is a tunnel under Al Shifa Hospital, for example." And what the lieutenant colonel did is he told the camera crews, "Listen, you follow me from start to finish. We're going to walk through from the outside to the inside. We're going to go into the tunnel. We're going to walk through all the different sections, and then we're going to walk out in the end." And that's countered a lot of the counter sort of accusations that are happening, because people are being very clever. And obviously we're up against an enemy. We're up against a terrorist organization, and they will do anything in their power to make it look like they are the victims in this. That's been a constant throughout all the years of the conflict with Palestinian terrorism. And then you've got guys that are being brought in like Alon Levy. He's been absolutely fantastic, and I think a lot of people have started seeing that he's an incredible spokesperson for the Israeli government, and he really knows how to hold his own, and he's been doing a great job. So from the PR side of, I believe that there is a very good public relations side going on. Everything is done very carefully and it's very coordinated, so that there cannot be room for mistakes, or later on people can't poke holes in the facts that have been given.
Let's take a look at the 7th of October, because as we know, Hamas gleefully made sure the world could bear witness to their heinous crimes, to their crimes against humanity, including the raping of women. It's a topic I speak a lot about, being an Israeli woman, and also being part of an organization, World Weta, where we are campaigning 24/7 to get the world to listen and to believe Jewish women. Hamas did this with absolute glee. They hijacked people's social media accounts to terrorize their families. They showed it in real time. We've got the recordings. We've got ample footage. Why are people still debating the veracity of the footage that they have seen? Why is there still Holocaust denial in real time?
We've seen a trend all of a sudden that there's folks from all different sort of aspects of life siding with the actions of what Hamas did, and I can't actually quite put my finger on it. I've been trying to look at it. I've spoken to people on the other side of the fence and asked them. A lot of it's based on misinformation. They have absolutely no idea. They can't even point out Gaza on a map. They will say that. Jerusalem is in Gaza, for example, and they have no idea what the West Bank is. You ask them what the river to the sea means, what river are they talking about? They have no clue. They've been indoctrinated and sort of fed nonsense for so many years. In the last 10, 15 years at least, that this has caused people to have these sort of reactions. They don't understand what it's like to be in a wartime situation. They don't understand what it's like. They live such a protected and privileged existence in the West that they cannot possibly fathom it in their brains, even if the evidence is sitting in front of them, that this is actually happening. And it's a huge concern. I mean, the things that I've seen in the last 2 months have been absolutely horrific. It's had a massive effect on my ability to sleep at night. I can't understand how people can have these sort of reactions and say no, it's nonsense. Yesterday, for example, the day seemed to encompass a social media barrage of we want to see proof of women that were raped in Israel. How disgusting and sick do you have to be to say that you want proof? You want to see a rape kit of a woman that has been brutally raped, or you want to hear evidence from her. The whole idea of the Me Too movement has been completely thrown out of the windows. Feminists are not talking about this, about the brutal rape and torture, and I mean, women had their breasts cut off, and no one is saying anything. It's beyond. Yeah, I'm quite shocked that this is the reaction that's happening, and the fact that people are asking for proof. It's sickening. It's actually sickening.
Well, I'm sure our victims would have been able to give evidence and proof. Unfortunately, for those doubters out there, they have been brutally murdered, many of them burnt within recognition. We had the same issue with babies, and I remember the journalist from I24 News who broke the story, distinctly saying there are 40 dead babies, some of them beheaded, and the world developed a thirst for what I call terror porn. They immediately wanted to see pictures of these beheaded babies. Well, sorry, world, we're not going to violate the last shreds of dignity of our babies to show their headless bodies to you. That's just not how we function. You know, it is amazing that everybody's very quick to believe that some dodgy director maybe put his hand on the thigh of a wannabe starlet. Everybody believes that. Maybe the event happened 30 years ago. She is believed without question. But when we have it, and we've got some of the horrific imagery of our women, not to mention the testimonies, and I listened to them yesterday, of our forensic pathologists, our women who prepared bodies for burial, our first responders. That is absolutely not good enough, because maybe, just maybe, they happen to be Israeli women that shouldn't be believed. But let's talk about campuses and what we're seeing in the streets around the world, especially amongst young people. Tim, have we lost Gen Z?
I just want to quickly just make a statement, then it's going to possibly shock people. This is going back to the people asking for rape, and it's particularly men that are doing so. It seems like on social media, the men that are asking for proof of rape have some sick kind of rape fantasy, And like it or not, if you are wanting proof and wanting to hear the brutal story about a woman being raped or see images that prove that she's been raped, you are a rapist yourself and you are fantasizing about rapists. And that cannot be tolerated. You're a sick individual and you belong exactly where rapists belong. I won't elaborate more on where they belong, but yeah. As for Gen Z, Gen Z has no idea about what's going on in the world, especially relating to this conflict. And I say that without wanting to insult Gen Z and even my generation as well, the millennial generation. The only reason I know about what's going on in the Middle East is that my mother worked very closely with the Jewish community in Durban when I was growing up, and I grew up talking to people and being cared for and loved by the community itself. A lot of people aren't being taught about the Holocaust anymore. You ask them what the Holocaust is, and they'll ask you if it's a place in Poland or something like that. That's even if they can point Poland out on the map. There's not enough education. Never again means never again, and part of never again means teaching people about anti-Semitism and what happened to Jewish people in World War II and prior to that. And these things aren't being taught in schools. People are forgetting, and that's part of the big problem of it. I remember at school one of the movies that we had to watch and one of the set books that we had to read was The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. By the end of that movie, I was in tears. The other kids in the class laughed at me for crying, but I was in absolute tears because I was horrified about what happened. The other kids in my class would have also, now that they've matured and sort of grown up and understand what the significance of that movie was, would understand what happened. But unfortunately, I think that Gen Z is not being exposed to these kind of things. I mean, my father made me watch Schindler's List, for example, and he said, you need to learn about what happened so that it cannot happen again. We need to learn how evil the world can be so that we don't forget. And we remember, we remember how evil the world was, and we're seeing it again, how evil the world is. And before it gets to out of proportions limits, and I feel it already has, unfortunately, I think that the new upcoming generations, they can't comprehend how violent and how brutal things are, so they brush it off as false. But we need proof.
How do we fix that?
I think we can. I absolutely think we can, by standing up and telling the truth always. We need to show the world how evil it is, and we need to make them remember what had happened. And it's sad that survivors of the Holocaust are, as time goes by, there are less and less of them around, and we need to tell their stories, and we need to speak to these generations and say to them, listen, there were things that happened in the past that we can't allow to happen again, and we're starting to see it happening again. And we need to encourage them not to be part of it, because the rise of anti-Semitism that I've seen in the last 2 months is shocking. It's absolutely shocking. It's upsetting for one, and then it's apologies. I'm getting a bit emotional because it seems like we're up against people who refuse to believe. We're sitting with the UN women. I've just looked at a press release now that I'm busy with about the UN women. It's taken them 2 months to condemn anything. I don't even think they have condemned anything.
Well, they were alarmed.
That's nice. Let's be alarmed about it.
I was more horrified, outraged, disgusted, shocked to the core, absolutely devastated, but they were alarmed some 57 days later.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. I cannot understand. And there are women on the Security Council, and there were women that head the UN Women, and they've just sort of sat there. And I mean, there are 150 million women raped in the world. I think it's on a yearly basis almost. The chances that we know a woman or a girl child that has been involved in sexual violence is very high. Our sisters, our cousins, our friends, 1 in 3 of them have been raped in their lifetime, or will be raped in their lifetime. It's a fact that we can't get away from, and the fact that the UN Women has taken 2 months to even say anything tells me that they're there for the money. They're not there for women's rights or for standing for women and stopping these atrocities from happening.
Well, 80 years ago, we said never again. Today, we say never again is now. And as painful as it is to look at the images, to listen to the stories, to read the testimonies, we have to continue to be the voice, not just for our grandparents and great-grandparents who went through the unendurable during the Shoah, during the Holocaust, but we have to be there for our brothers and our sisters, our mothers, our fathers, our daughters and our sons who went through it nearly 2 months ago. Tim Fleck from the boutique PR firm fleckpartners.co.za. Check them out there. Tim, I cannot thank you enough for joining me today. That's going to be it from me, Rolene Marks, on Modiin and Beyond. A huge thank you to my guest, Tim Fleck, joining me all the way from South Africa, Eric Rubin from World Maccabi Union, Pe'er Atia behind the scenes, twiddling knobs, making sure I behave myself, which is a great challenge because I seldom do. And a huge thank you to you out there for listening. I'm Rolene Marks. I just want to take this opportunity to wish you Chag Chanukah Sameach. I know we don't feel very joyous at the moment, but in this time of darkness, let us bring the light. Take care of yourselves and each other.
בכל מקום, כל הזמן, יש לכולנו מגדול ועד קטן, ימים יפים וגם פחות, וביניהם תשובה לכל השאלות. יש אלוהים אחד גדול, ובעולם הזה נותן לנו הכל, בין אפלה לקרן אור. את הנתיב אנחנו רק צריכים לבחור, וזה ידוע, חיים למתנה, הכל צפוי והרשות נתונה. מי שמאמין לא מפחד, את האמונה לאבד, ולנו יש את מלך העולם, והוא שומר אותנו מכולם. מי שמאמין לא מפחד, את האמונה לאבד, ולנו יש את מלך העולם, והוא שומר אותנו מכולם. העם הזה הוא משפחה, אחד ועוד אחד זה סוד ההצלחה. עם ישראל לא יוותר, תמיד על המפה אנחנו נשאר, וזה ידוע, חיים ממתנה, הכל צפוי והרשות נתונה. מי שמאמין לא מפחד, את האמונה לאבד, ולנו יש את מלך העולם, והוא שומר אותנו מכולם. מי שמאמין לא מפחד, את האמונה לאבד, ולנו יש את מלך העולם, והוא שומר אותנו מכולם. מי שמאמין לא מפחד, את האמונה לאמן, ולנו יש את מלך העולם, והוא שומר אותנו מכולם. מי שמאמין לא מפחד, את האמונה לאמן, ולנו יש את מלך העולם, והוא שומר אותנו מכולם.